Hi, my name is Will Nunziata, and I'm a New York City-based director and creator of theater, television, and film, and I'm also a proud FENIX Global Artist Ambassador. Today, I am thrilled to be speaking with the acclaimed bicoastal improviser, stand-up, and musical comedy entertainer, Alec Brown. For more on Alec, you can read more about him right below this video, but in the meantime, here is a sneak peek at the incredibly funny talent of Alec.
I'm Alec, and you're watching Challah At Ya Goy.
When quarantine started, he started to bake. He moved in with his boyfriend's parents in New Jersey. And since they're all Jewish, he thought they'd enjoy fresh bread for Shabbos dinner. Challah At Ya Goy. Challah. And now he's learning recipes. Challah. He's teaching voluntarily. Got no clue what he's doing, and he's gay, comma, oi. Challah At Ya Goy.
Let's bake.
Well, hello, Alec. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you doing, Will?
I am good, thank you, my friend. Well, the audience has got a little sneak peek of your comedic genius with the theme song for your latest project, Challah At Ya Goy, As You Do. As You Do, by the way, is not in the title.
No, it should be, though. It should be.
Well, you're sweet, but talk to me a little bit about that project that you just started.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, I'm sure like everyone else in this past year with quarantine, I got really into baking. So I was making like sourdoughs, and then I got really into making challah. And then when I came back to live with my boyfriend and his parents, they're all Jewish. I am not. And I thought it was like a nice thing to do to make challah every Friday for the family for Shabbos dinner. And then I was like, you know what? I should just like start switching this up. It's been like 5 months of the same boring challah. So I'm gonna look up different recipes, and I'm just gonna read through them once and then try them out and see how good my retention for baking is in this moment.
Oh my God.
It's been an experience. A lot of bread.
But you won over, I'm sure you already won over your boyfriend's mom, but I mean, this is like clincher.
Oh, absolutely. I have actually my apron says balabusta on it, which is Jewish for like homemaker, like the one who like makes it the home, and she's like, you have to wear this. I was like, okay, I'll be the homemaker. I'll make the challah.
That is hilarious. I want to though start at the beginning, Alec. I want to know where you grew up and when you knew you had a little bit of the funny bone.
Okay, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, with I am the middle child of 5 boys.
Wow.
So I have 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of testosterone. And I think the first time I got like the performing bug was in my 3rd grade Christmas show, where I played like the disgruntled store manager who like the Ebenezer Scrooge who didn't have a Christmas spirit.
I love it.
And I remember having the line, Miss O'Reilly, what are you doing in the middle of my store? And I was the only 3rd grader in this show with all the 6th graders. And one of the teachers was like, you should put him in theater. And that's where I kind of like fell into it. And the rest is the history of my life.
Well, Alec, I love so much that you not only at that moment with that, what was it, Scottish or Irish accent? I couldn't quite tell. Or was it Cockney? Or a little bit of everything?
I think it was like an 8-year-old's version of a Cockney accent of just
you're trying to be Eliza Doolittle. Are you trying to be like Eliza Doolittle a little bit?
A little bit. That was my dream goal, honestly, was to be in My Fair Lady. I was like, please.
Alec,
please.
I knew we clicked. But listen, after that though, my friend, you really went after it, but not only went after it, and I love this about you, and this is something that I really hope young artists that I know that you mentor, and we'll get into that, should really take a look at. You didn't take for granted the fact that you knew how to make people laugh. You studied the craft of it. I really would like you to dive into the different schools and the different classes that you've taken within the comedy world.
Oh, of course. Well, growing up in high school, I did a lot of theater. I would do like 3 or 4 musicals a year with between school and then other organizations, and because Kansas City is a big theater hub in the Midwest. And after that, I got my BFA in musical theater from Missouri State University. And then I moved to New York, did some shows there. And then I started studying with UCB. I completed their program, did musical improv with them. And then I joined their academy, which was like their company that you become a member of. And then you have like the top tier classes and all that. And then I moved to Los Angeles at the beginning of 2020 and started taking classes with the Groundlings. So that was a lot of fun. It did get sadly cut short because of the pandemonium, but what are you gonna do?
Well, I love it. And I love that you just keep going and keep learning and you have a thirst for learning. But, even before the pandemic, you were making a little name of yourself in the West Village and also beyond, because I had heard of it. Talk to me a little bit about your Peter, Paul, and
Carly.
See, I just wanted
Yes.
to have a yes and improv moment.
I love that. I love a good yes and moment. It's needed in, I think, everyday life.
Tell me about Peter, Paul, and Carly, and how that idea germinated, how it went, like came from here, from like mind to page to stage.
Oh, absolutely. Well, a lot of that stemmed from, I was living with my roommate who I went to school with. She was a musical theater performer. We started taking classes at UCB. And then I started dating my boyfriend, who is a composer, singer-songwriter, very talented individual. And we would just be like hanging out in our apartment. And we were like, oh, do you guys ever think about like read receipts, how someone reads your text message but doesn't respond? And then my boyfriend would just go over to the piano, start playing, and then we would just write a song. And I think we wrote like 8 or 9 songs that way. And then we're like, wait a second, these piece into something.
Yeah.
And then it took us a little while to kind of figure out the plot of what we were doing, because the plot of the show is basically 3 millennial roommates start doing a cabaret show. We put on berets and we become these alternate characters, from Tucker, Alec, and Carly to Peter, Paul, and Carly. And the opening act is supposed to come and open the show, but they ghost us, hence the read receipt song. And then the rest of the show is just us improvising, and a lot of it was improv in the first couple shows, and then just throwing in the songs we wrote to be like, oh, we're stalling for the opening act.
Right.
And then when they finally arrive, the show was out of its time. And so it'd be like, oh, you didn't get to see the show, come back next time. And that was the bit for every single show we did.
See, I love it because it seemed, because I think, as a director and a creator myself, I love the fact that, you're taking something within the cabaret format, but you actually have created theater. Obviously, as we both know, the best theater is at the beginning of the show when shit hits the fan and we're eavesdropping in on these life or death stakes moments. And I love the idea and the whole concept of what you've created that I'm curious to know what you think about in terms of moving forward, because honestly, at the Duplex, that's beautiful. But I think, it could be a full-fledged theater piece that almost like every time you return back to the theater, it's maybe a little bit different each time for an audience. Am I somewhat on the right track or?
No, you're absolutely right. We at the beginning of 2020, we wanted to start adapting it for theater. We were like, there were a couple, I don't remember, I think it was the ASCAP musical theater writing workshop program in Los Angeles. And we were trying to adapt it for the show we'd written to become the first act. And then instead of it ending the show, it to be intermission and then writing a second act of it, of a completely different show. So it's been, we've toyed with the idea of changing it up and expanding upon the universe and making it something. There was a time when we were considering making it just like full-on sketch comedy, kind of like Broad City meets Flight of the Conchords, and then kind of trying to option that for TV and stuff like that. So the idea of it is so much fun. And rewatching the videos and the footage of it to send you the reel, I was like, this is so funny. It was really such a blast to perform. And now it's been over a year since I've done it. And I miss it. It was a very fun performance.
Well, I loved watching it, and the audience is going to get to see a little bit if they haven't already in terms of when I've edited into the interview. And I love that. I love the way your mind works. But in addition to also, you creating things for yourself, there's this altruistic side of you, already so young, but already thinking about legacy, it seems, about how you're able to not only use the tools that you've put into your tool belt for yourself, but for others. I want you to talk a little bit about Story Pirates and how, your collaboration with them began and, what that means to you and kind of, mentoring others.
Of course, of course. Well, I heard about Story Pirates from a couple of comedians in New York. It was Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang on their podcast Las Culturistas. If you've ever heard of them, they're very, very funny. Bowen is now on SNL. He was a story pirate at the beginning.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, very, very kind human being. And I heard about it and I was like, this sounds like a fantastic thing. So Story Pirates is an organization where a bunch of theatrical performers and educators go into public schools or different schools and after school programs. And we teach writing structure to kids through sketch comedy. So we'll be like, oh, let's talk about the hero trope of a story. And one of us would be like, oh, I'm this fake superhero. And then the kids would come up with ideas of like, this is your superpower. This is what you do to save the day. And it's all just fostering the creativity of children, which is, it is like one of my favorite things to just hear like the ideas kids will come up with.
Yeah.
Because when you give them, like the Story Pirates motto is permission to get weird. So we're like, the weirdest thing you can come up with, we love that, we want to use it. Like one of the shows I did last week, I was an egg named Eggy who worked at an omelet cafe. And so the kids were like, make another omelet. And I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm an egg cracking eggs. Let's not delve too deeply.
You're yes-anding like you learn in improv. But Alec,
exactly.
What a beautiful thing though, through what you do as not only a performer in going on stage and showing and not telling an audience member that they can be their best selves by just being unapologetically truthful. And on top of the fact, you're able to now parlay that into teaching kids in a digestible way through humor, these qualities of celebrating the weird within them. And that could be a superpower. I mean, that's so beautiful.
It makes me think of, well, first of all, thank you. And it makes me think of, I had a professor in college who told me something that really stuck with me. And it was, the best acting and you have ever done will be when you were a child and you were playing pretend on the playground.
That's right.
That is the height of creativity when you're like creating worlds. Like I would sit on a swing set during recess with my best friend and we created a galaxy of planets and like ecosystems for this planet, and like this planet was different. This was like the water world, fire world, all of that. And it's like the creative mind of a child is so powerful. And it feels like it gets bashed so hard by so much of education and life. And the older I get, the more I'm like, I want to foster the creative ingenuity of children, because when you let them just like say whatever they want to or create the stories and just really support them in that and give them a platform to speak, it's just wonderful what they come up with. Like many children who have, because Story Pirates has been around for about 10, 15 years now. And they get letters every so often from kids who have now become published authors, being like, it's because you guys chose my story when I was in 3rd grade that I felt that I had enough talent to become a writer, and I've done it. Thank you so much for helping foster the creative side of me. And it's wonderful to get involved with like children and just the young creative minds of the next generation. I think is so powerful.
Well, Alec, I think that's so beautiful. And as I think both of us know, we can name, I'm sure, quite a few teachers who were our North Stars, and that because of their encouragement, when maybe at times a world said, no, we were too much, or no, we were too lofty of a thinker. And I can't imagine what these kids are going to think when they're older and they remember, their teacher, Alec. And Alec, I love the way that you live in the possibility. I love the way that you live in the playpen of childhood, to be at play in the power of that, and not only, putting humor out there, but some healing. And I'm very excited for what's to come for you. And I'm so grateful for the time that you took today to speak with me.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. And I'm very excited for what the future holds as well. Who knows what it'll be.
Yeah, well, I think you're well on your way, my friend.
Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate that.
I only speak the truth, or at least my truth. And I I have a pretty good gut, okay? I'll brag about that. And you, my
I
friend,
trust you.
you have it. You have it. You're, you're doing what you need for yourself, but you're also not holding on to it. You're giving it away. And what more could you ask for in a performer, in an artist?
Well, thank you. That means so much. Oh my goodness. I'm like, compliments.
You're welcome.
This time of day? Oh, goodness.
Well, Alec, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Of course, anytime.
Bye.
In the digital age, artists and bands struggle to make a living. In fact, only a small number of artists can live off their craft. For the 98% of artists that don't have the luxury of being signed to a label, it's tough. But artists deserve to live off their art. Wherever you are around the world, appreciation of music does not change. FENIX brings bands and their fans together, whilst allowing bands to properly monetize their passion. The FENIX app will directly connect bands and fans with no need for middlemen. We're utilizing the blockchain to give the power back to the artists once and for all. Join FENIX, join the change.